Welcome to my talk, 10 Ideas to Grow Your Revenue in 2025. My name is Jens. I'm head of product at RevenueCat. Previously, I worked at a subscription-based app myself. So I've been in the shoes of a lot of you here trying to grow revenue, and now I help others grow revenue. In case you don't know what RevenueCat does, we do infrastructure and tools for in-app purchases, subscriptions. But I'm not here to talk about RevenueCat today. I'm here to talk about how you grow your app. The slides are available online at this URL, so you don't have to snap pictures. The URL is going to be on every slide as well. So let's jump in. 10 ideas to grow your revenue in 2025. The first idea is pricing to maximize value capture. If you've ever been in an economics lecture, you've probably seen something like this. This is a demand curve that basically says your revenue is determined by basically the price that you charge that tells you how many customers are willing to purchase your product at that price. And then, depending on the price, you basically get a revenue that's the price times the demand. And then when you lower your price, you have higher demand. And when you increase the price, you have lower demand. But that's basically like the relationship there. Now, what if you could charge multiple prices? That would basically increase this area under the curve. And turns out that you can. So here's one example. Tinder has 3 different subscription tiers: Tinder Plus, Tinder Gold, Tinder Platinum, and it basically allows customers to self-select at the level that they're willing to pay for, right? So that basically means that Tinder does not have one price; it has 3 prices, and it's therefore increasing this area under the curve and their overall revenue. Another example is from Bumble. They also have 2 different subscription tiers, but they also have individual consumables. So you can either buy the subscription, or you can buy these individual super swipes, and you can buy them in packages at multiple different price points, or you can buy multiple of those. This really increases the number of price points that are available. So of course, these are both dating examples, but I wanted to show you some other examples of how apps use consumables to this effect of basically achieving multiple different price points for customers to self-select. Here we have Galateo on the left, an ebook app where you can either have an unlimited subscription that grants you access to everything, or you can buy individual points to redeem individual chapters, multiple price points there. A lot of the Gen AI apps, here is Suno on the right-hand side as an example, have a different model where you can have a subscription and then top up additional credits on top of that. And another example here from Telegram, they have this creator model where you can buy stars and then either pay them to individual creators or have subscriptions to channels, and basically Telegram takes a cut of all of these. Number 2, localize your monetization. The first one is localizing your pricing to reflect local purchasing power. If you have not heard of this, if you have not done this, this is definitely something worth investing in or experimenting with, because different countries, different currencies have different purchasing power. You do have to think there a little bit about, is your product a mass market product, in which case it's probably good to stick closer to the local purchasing power, or is your product more of a luxury product, in which case you might want to stick more with one global pricing. Another interesting thing to take into consideration here is in the different markets, what is the difference in iOS and Android adoption? In some markets, iOS and Android are kind of almost replaceable. In others, iOS is much more correlated with affluence, and therefore maybe you want to price higher on iOS in those markets. You should always A/B test your pricing to ensure that you're maximizing your LTV. And one thing on the left here, you see this Netflix index here. That's maybe one good way of starting an investigation here to look at what are some of the bigger competitors doing in terms of their global pricing. But there's not only pricing, there's also different purchasing preferences that vary by country. Here's a very interesting chart from Google Play where they're basically showing what do people buy. And you've seen North America, which is a very important market for many subscription-based apps. It's almost purely subscription. But then if you look at East Asia, Japan, Korea, you see that one-off purchases, individual purchases, consumables are much more prevalent. So they're really thinking about, can we offer different models for different markets, trials versus no trials, consumables, non-recurring subscriptions, installments, prepaid plans, and really figuring out what works for the different markets and the different purchasing preferences. Number 3, expanding your business model. And this is something that is net new. If you have not heard about this, Apple recently launched the Advanced Commerce API, which unlocks previously impossible business models. So you probably know on the App Store, you can basically only set a certain number of prices. Every product needs to be its own individual product. With the Advanced Commerce API, this is no longer the case. This is a private API that you do need to apply for. But then once you have access to this, basically you can define the pricing at the purchase, when the purchase is made. This unlocks business models like custom bundles. There's this example here in the middle where you basically have like different channels in this streaming app. A creator economy where you have peer-to-peer subscriptions or peer-to-peer payments. Marketplaces where people can upload something and then others can access that. Or also things like B2B or seat-based licensing where you could say like I'm selling 10 seats to my product. Again, this is a private API, but if this is not on your radar and something that could be interesting to you, do check this out. Number 4, establishing win-win partnerships. This is an example here from Onyx, the hunting app. They have a pretty broad set of partners where customers get additional subscription benefits in real life, like discounts to these partners. This obviously is firstly a tool to increase conversion, but then also these partnerships often, because these partnerships often act as an acquisition channel for their partner, you might get this kind of partnership for free. But conversely, these partners can also help you acquire customers through offline advertising. Again, in this case, they're partnering with like apparel or equipment brands who then might in turn recommend their customers to check out the Onyx app. Also, partnerships can help make a digital app be anchored to physical purchases. What do I mean by that? That takes me right into number 5, tweaking customers' mental accounting. So for that, let me just quickly take a pause here and explain what is mental accounting. Humans assign a different value to money based on its source or intended use. Objectively, a dollar is a dollar, a pound is a pound, a euro is a euro, regardless of the context, right? However, humans do, in fact, assign a different subjective value to that money depending on the source, where did they get that money from, or the intended use, what do they intend to spend it on. So for example, you might be a frugal person, like saving up for a big expense, but then you find a $100 bill on the sidewalk and you're like, I'm going to treat myself to a nice dinner with this. Even though this $100 is not different to the $100 that you earn from your day-to-day job, right? But just because you found it, you feel like this is a different type of money. And how does this matter to apps? Well, customers' willingness to spend from their mobile apps mental account might not be very high. They're like, this is purely a digital good. This does not have a lot of value. So to the extent that you can change that mental accounting, you can basically unlock a higher willingness to pay. So let me give you some examples here. We've got the Slopes app, a ski tracking app on the left-hand side. They sell these day passes. They're basically, what they try to do with this is they try to put the app in the same mental account as the ski vacation. So if you've ever been on a ski vacation, you know that's not a cheap vacation, and you're paying for this ski pass already, like you're paying for your pass at the ski resort, and to the extent that you can kind of bundle the expense for the app in that same mental account as opposed to, well, this is just a digital purchase that I'm making, they can unlock a higher willingness to pay. On the right-hand side here, we've got fitness app Ladder, who heavily leans on coaching personality, videos that kind of speak to you directly, that try to put this app in the same mental account as like, hey, this is like a personal trainer. This is like my gym expense, right? Where you typically pay a much higher amount than you would for like an average digital purchase. So back to the partnerships then. These also can help associate your app with a different mental account, right? Especially any apps that are related to hobbies where customers typically spend large amounts, like hunting. They spend hundreds and thousands of dollars on equipment and gear for that. So basically trying to bundle yourself with that and saying, well, I'm buying this app, but that also gives me a good deal on my next equipment purchase. That kind of bundles that together in the mental account. Number 6, utilizing the IKEA effect. What is the IKEA effect? The IKEA effect is that humans attribute greater value to something that they have invested effort in. So if you've ever, built a piece of IKEA furniture, you know that you treasure that thing more than, something that you would have just built pre-assembled because of all the time that you invested in building this thing. So how does this work for apps? In a few ways. Basically by having your customers invest time and effort into the app to then increase their conversion rate. 2 examples here. The Duolingo app allows you to grind to to earn gems. So, you can basically, for example here, like, finding your friends to earn 100 gems. There's various things that you can do to grind to get this value, but that then makes you more likely, it makes you attribute higher value to these gems because you associate that with the effort that you put in, which then in turn makes you more likely to purchase later. And then on the right-hand side here, we have MyFitnessPal, who has a massive 12-step onboarding. I did not put all the screenshots on here, but that makes customers value the plan that was created for them much more highly because of all the effort that they've invested into this. Number 7, using live ops to convert, engage, and retain. What are live ops? Live ops is mostly a term from the mobile gaming world, where mobile games effectively use this to keep players engaged in spending. Basically, live ops here means ongoing updates to the app and its content, to basically keep the content fresh. Here's some keys to successful live ops. Firstly, frequency, always keeping the game fresh and engaging. Time limited, driving some kind of urgency and engagement, like this is only here for a limited period of time, use it now or you will kind of miss it. Some kind of competitive and social aspects like leaderboards, guilds, player versus player. Community, basically using this to listen to the player base, balance the game. And also having tie-ins to the real world, like seasonal events, collaborations. Again, this is mostly about games, so now let's talk about how does this work for non-gaming apps. Here's some ideas there where apps are using these kind of live ops mechanisms, using updates or content to re-engage or retain and convert their customers. On the left-hand side, we have another example from Ladder, who have these 6-week scheduled training series that they use to both drive urgency, this is something like sign up now, this is only here for a limited time, but also to re-engage their customers, right? Like somebody might have churned or be on the verge of churning, so then, if you send them, hey, like here's another thing that starts, here's fresh new content, brings them right back in. Or on the right-hand side here, we have Flash Score, tying their communication to a real-world event, in which case, in this case, a rugby tournament. Number 8, manage your Apple refund rate. Dipsy achieved a 36% drop in Apple refunds with this one weird trick. So this is real data, right, from last year, where they had a 3% refund rate and dropped it to 1.9%. And this is the weird trick, which is not actually weird. It's just using the tools that Apple gives us. As you probably know, on the App Store, Apple is the arbiter of refunds, right? As a developer, you cannot decide whether or not a customer is given a refund. They have to go to Apple, and Apple then decides. But Apple gives us a tool there. Whenever a customer contacts them for a refund, they send this consumption request notification, and you can then choose to respond with consumption information data. And if you're using RevenueCat, we make that super easy. That's just a checkbox in the dashboard, but you can also do that yourself if you have your own purchase infrastructure. Basically, the kind of information that you send there is how much time did this customer spend using your app, did they access or complete any content, what is the lifetime purchase history and a refund history, and lastly, also a refund preference. Basically, you can tell Apple, I would prefer that you grant, or I would prefer that you deny this refund, or you just make up your mind, Apple. In this Dipsy example, the interesting thing is we did not even say, hey, like, please deny this, right? It was actually just letting Apple decide, but just by means of giving Apple better information on how did the customer use the app, that basically dropped the refund rate quite significantly. Number 9, harnessing the power of cancellations. So just a little bit of data here. Most customers cancel early in their subscription. This is RevenueCat data from like tens of thousands of apps, 20 million trials from 2024. 28% of people on the 7-day trial cancel it in the first hour, so basically immediately. And if you look at the first 36 hours, it's 60%, right? So very early on, and it looks very much the same if you look not at trials, but at regular subscriptions. So most customers cancel very early on. The good news is customers can be reactivated, especially on shorter plans. On monthly plans, we actually see like a 13% reactivation rate. So how do you then do that? Do not waste canceling customers. Here are some things that you should do with your canceling customers. Firstly, re-engaging them. So that means get them back into the app. Engagement is the best predictor of retention. Even if somebody cancels their subscription, maybe because they always cancel all their subscriptions so that they don't forget to cancel them, there's still a way to get them back just by re-engaging them, making sure that they do not stop using the app. Also, try and retain them. Offer alternatives to a cancellation, like a downgrade, a pause, a discount. But even if they do churn, Try to learn from it. Run cancellation surveys and conduct research with your churning customers to understand why they are canceling. And don't be content with hearing it's too expensive, because too expensive is never the root cause. Too expensive always means I did not get the value for what I paid for, right? So really try to dig into that. And lastly, try to win them back. Don't give up on customers even after churning, which takes me into my last point, winning back churned customers. So here's a few ideas, a few tactics to win back churned customers. Firstly, personalized messaging. Try to really understand what content or what features customers have engaged with in the past, and then use that as a hook. So let's say I'm using a fitness app, and I've engaged with like yoga content. So then I've churned, and now if there's a new yoga program available, if something like in that area becomes available, use that as a hook to bring me back in. Don't just send me everything and anything, but really try to understand what is it that made me interested in the app in the first place. Very related to this, fresh content and functionality. Any major updates to content or functionality that you're doing, try to use that to address any customers who might have churned to either because they get bored, right? That kind of ties back to the live ops one. People just get bored of the same content, or because their needs weren't met, right? They came for a certain thing, but that didn't quite fill their need. Maybe a future app update does meet that need. And lastly, tried but true, seasonal messaging. Use real-life events as a hook to offer discounts to churned customers. Like things like Black Friday, back to school, New Year. Use those to re-engage and win back churned customers. And just one additional piece of advice here is utilizing Apple's win-back offers. So this is something that Apple rolled out, I think, last year to target customers in the App Store. The nice thing about Apple's win-back offers is, firstly, it has super attractive placements. These win-back offers are exposed in the App Store, in the subscription management page, so where you basically go to cancel your subscription inside the App Store, you can show these offers there. Also in the app and through custom URLs. You can configure the whole eligibility through App Store Connect, like for example, okay, you have to have been a subscriber for this long, or you've canceled this long ago. And they're really, really easy to use. So in contrast, if you've ever tried anything with Apple's promotional offers, they are really quite tricky to use. They require you to cryptographically sign stuff on your backend. Win-back offers are super, super easy. So you can just easily apply them through these above channels without writing any backend code. All right, that's it from me. Thank you very much. Do check out my slides. And if you have any questions, feel free to find me at the RevenueCat booth later. Thank you.